the clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Moving to 2.0, adoption of the agenda, and we do have an addendum, please.
Motion to adopt the agenda with the addendum.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the agenda with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. 3.0, approval of minutes from December 9th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those minutes from December 9th regular meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants. Any issues about that?
Motion to approve bills and warrants.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the bills and warrants. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. I don't see anybody in the audience that wants to address us, so we will move to 6.0. And I think we will send that down the agenda since our guest speaker is not appear to be here yet. Maybe
This is
she's
her
walking
ready.
in now, so we will not move her down the agenda if she's ready.
Do I just want skipped over to 7? 6?
Oh, here comes.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
We are ready for you now, if you're ready. If not, we can send you down the agenda for a few minutes.
I'm ready.
Okay?
I'm Emily Franks with Jared Gilmore and Phillips, here to present your audit for fiscal year June 30 of 2024. Did everybody get the blue packet? Okay. Now your copies should have had some loose reports that were in the front. We're gonna take those, go ahead and just set them aside, and we'll come back to those. And I will note there was a printing error where page 5 should have been. It's page 11, so they're flip-flop back and forth. So we'll just point that out now and get that out of the way. But if you want to go ahead and jump to page 1, this is the auditor's report. So this talks about what we audited. So we audited Unified School District 503 as of the year ended June 30th of 2024, and the footnotes to the financial statement. We did issue an adverse opinion for generally accepted accounting principles because you as a district have elected to follow Kansas regulatory basis of accounting, which is what all the districts across Kansas do. So we issue adverse for generally accepted, but then we issue an unmodified opinion for regulatory basis of accounting. An unmodified for layman's terms would be a clean report, but we don't use that word. We use unmodified. So we did not have any issues with the financial statements or the footnotes that were related to those financial statements. And that covers paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 on page 1. If you go down, 4th paragraph, this is the basis for our adverse and unmodified opinions, kind of breaks it down in a little bit more detail. And then the bottom of the page, this is the responsibility of management for the financial statements. You flip to page 2, that continues at the top, and then it talks about what the auditor's responsibilities are for those financial statements. And then at the bottom of the page is supplementary information. We do give an opinion on statement 1, which we'll go over here in a few minutes. But there are some supplementary reports that are in the back which give a little bit more detail about all the funds that the district has. And it shows comparatives from the prior year to the current year, and then comparisons to your budget. And if there was any variances or any overages or unders on your budget, it would show on those reports as well. And then on page 3, we do not include the prior year audit in this packet, but we do have it available on the state's website. So if there was any questions about that, because those numbers are presented in this audit packet, you would go there to find that supporting information and opinions on that report. And then the very last paragraph on page 3 is you guys did have to undergo a single audit, which means that you spent more than $750,000 in federal funds during the year. So there's a little bit additional information that's in here, and so that bottom paragraph kind of gives reference to some wording that has to be included for government auditing standards. If you would go ahead and flip the page, you see this is the printing error. You'll see page 11. We're just going to skip that, and we're going to go to page 4. This is statement 1, so this is what we did audit. It lists out all the funds the district has, and then your beginning unencumbered cash, receipts, expenditures, and then ending unencumbered cash for each of the funds. And then we go ahead and take and add accounts payable back to get to what your actual cash balance was in each of your funds as of June 30th of 2024. I will note that in the column it says ending unencumbered cash balance. If any of those are a negative balance, then that is what we would consider a statutory violation. But in your guys' case, those funds are actually grant-funded programs. So the statute says that they might be negative, but you're gonna get grant dollars the next month, and because you don't record those receivables, it's okay in this case. So you had the ESSER grant, which did end with a negative balance, and the KDHE testing grant, which had negative. And so both of those are grant funds. You're gonna get that money the next month, and so that's going to be okay. If you flip back to where page 11 would be, you would find page 5. And this is the second half of statement 1 that we audited. And so you can see that at the end of the year, over on the right-hand side, this is your ending cash balance. This is your cash in the bank. $3,762,045.01. Underneath that's broke down how your cash is held. So you have some funds that are held in the activity checking account, so they kind of have control over their own money, but we have to report it. It also has to be audited. And so those activity funds are 158,000 of that 3 million. And then we subtract off the agency funds. So those are funds that they are under the district's umbrella, but they do belong to other organizations within the district. So those would be like your prom, after prom money and things like that. And so we'll touch base on that here in a few minutes. Is there any questions over statement 1? I know that was very fast. I don't know if you guys have had any time to review this ahead of time. Any questions at all? Okay. So then we'll jump into page 6. This is the footnotes of the audit. Footnote number 1, this is a very standard footnote that you're gonna find across every school district audit, pretty much every KMAG audit you pick up across the state of Kansas, and just talks about, you know, the reporting entity, you know, your related entities. You have a rec commission, the education foundation, kind of talks about where their financials could be found. So that's 6, 7, 8, and then into 9. On page 9, we'll go to footnote number 2. And this talks about the compliance with statutes. So when I pointed out on page 4 how there was 2 funds that had the statute violations, this gives a little bit more information about the statute that they weren't in compliance with, but then those being grant funds are going to be funded in the next month or within the next 2 months, and so that's okay to be negative. Second part of that footnote talks about budget laws. So you guys did not have any issues with budget violations, so you were in compliance with the statutes with regards to that, and we'll go over that budget schedule after we go through these footnotes. Footnote number 3, this talks about your deposits and investments. You as a government entity are required to have all your cash secured through either FDIC or securities pledged through your bank. And so this footnote talks about how your funds are secured. So if you go to page 10, right above footnote number 4, this talks about how much cash you had in the bank, and it's your reconciled balance versus your bank balance, and then how much was covered by FDIC insurance, and then how much was covered with securities pledged. And your board clerk is usually keeping track of this on a monthly basis. That's one of kind of the requirements, is to make sure that you're always secured. Footnote number 4, this is the finance lease obligation. So you guys do have one issue, long-term debt. And again, because your cash basis or regulatory basis, it doesn't get reported in your financials. It just gets footnoted as to what your balance is and then what your liabilities are over the next until it goes till 2031. So that has what your obligation is, and then it takes off interest and kind of just talks about what your actual lease obligation would be. Footnote 5 is the rights to use contracts. So this is what used to be like your leases, which the terminology changed a couple years ago. So now we just call it right to use contracts. And it looks like you guys have some equipment. So you paid out during the year $65,000 under lease agreements. And then it lists out what your future obligations are for leases that you're under. If you go backward to page 11, this gives just another breakdown of that energy lease that the district has, and has what your beginning balance was, and then your payments during the year, and what your ending balance was, and how much principal or how much interest you paid during the year. And then it just lists out what your future obligations are, broke down by year. It's listed by 5 years, and then it's subtotaled by 5 years thereafter. Okay, hopefully you save your spot. We'll flip back the other way. Footnote number 7, this is defined benefit pension plan, but this talks about your capers that's offered to your teachers. Now, you as a district, the money kind of hits your account and then it gets dispersed right back to capers, so it's not really something that you guys have any control over. It's just kind of an in and an out, but you as a district do contribute to capers on behalf of your employees. And so, let's see, on page 13, second paragraph down, you can see that there was $1,304,000 that was paid to capers on behalf of your employees. And then the net pension liability, this is if capers were to not fund, this is what the district's obligation would be. However, that's not something that's probably ever going to come to fruition, but has to be reported. And this is kind of more of a GAAP requirement. But you did have a net pension liability of $12 million. So, and that's associated with employees that are under capers. Footnote 8, other long-term obligations from operations. So you do offer some benefits to your employees as far as compensated absences are concerned. So that is all listed, what your policy is there. And if you flip the page to 14, kind of middle of the page, the estimated liability. So this is if all of your employees were to terminate at June 30, your liability as a district would have been $80,495. And that says it's for discretionary leave. So that's just required to be reported, again, because you follow cash basis. Risk management is footnote 9. This just talks about how you as a district kind of alleviate that risk, and that's through obtaining insurance. There's always, we'll go to page 15, contingent liabilities. You guys have a substantial amount of money that comes from the state and the feds, and so there's always that possibility that the funding could be cut. So that's what footnote 10 talks about, is that liability that does exist. Footnote 11, this is all the transfers that occurred during the year. It has the to and the from, and then the statute that allows you to make that transfer, and then the amounts that were transferred. Footnote 12 talks about subsequent events. If there was something of a material nature that would have happened after year end that could financially impact the district, we would have to report that as a subsequent event, and that would be found in footnote 12. On page 16, this is the schedule that refers to budgets. It talks about what your certified budget was, the adjustments for your legal max. So during the year, your budget was decreased below what the legal max was decreased because your enrollment was less than what it was originally estimated to be. So you can see the second, you have your funds in the certified budget, but that's the third column over the adjustments for legal max. And then on the far right-hand side, that's your variance over under for your budgets. And you guys did not have any issues there with any budget violations. And so this is only going to include your funds that are budgeted. And the general fund is a little, but we don't really count 11 cents as being a budget violation. I'm sure you guys probably don't want to go through every single fund in here because you have lots of other business to go over this evening. So let's just go ahead and jump back to page 45. Page 45, these are those agency funds that I was talking about when we were going over statement 1. But this lists out all the funds that are held within the district but really belong to like other entities. So like your payroll clearing fund, these are not dollars that belong to the district but probably employees or your health insurance company. And then you have like your spirit club, math club. So all those balances belong technically to others besides the district. So just point that out there. 46 starts the activity fund. This is going to include your gate receipts, your school activity funds, your yearbook, and that goes into page 47. And then when we get to page 48, this is when we talk about single audit and you guys spending more than $750,000 in federal money. That's where this comes into play. So this is a schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and this lists out all the grants that you have received during the year and then also how much money you spent out. Now this is just federal grants that are listed here. It's broke down by what branch of the government your money came from and then the grant specifically. So you've got, Title I, Carl Perkins, and so in total, you as a district spent $3,564,000 federal dollars, which is why you have to undergo the single audit, which is just additional testing and obtaining grant reports and verifying documentation. Okay, let's go to page 49. Pretty much everything from here back is all related to the single audit itself. So page 49, report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of the financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. So this kind of goes back to more of the financial statement side of your audit with regards to the single audit. Again, talks about what we audited, report over internal control, financial reporting, and then report on compliance and other matters. And then page 50 talks about the purpose of the report. On 51, this is more directly program related. So report on each major program and report on internal control over compliance required by the uniform guidance. So talks about the opinion for each major program, which again, we had an unmodified opinion for the major programs that were tested. We did not have any issues. The basis for our opinion, again, this is it mimics a lot of what the auditor's report is. So there's the responsibilities of management, the auditor's responsibilities, and then report over internal control over compliance. And then on page 53, that's the purpose of the report. And page 54 is a one-page summary of everything I've talked about. And this is probably where you wanted me to start from the get-go. But this talks about, is a schedule of findings and question costs, the summary of the auditor's report. So the first paragraph talks about what our opinion on the auditor's report was. Internal control over financial reporting. We didn't have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. For federal awards, again, there was no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And we didn't have any issues with major programs. So that was an unmodified opinion with regards to those as well. And then kind of towards the bottom of the page, it talks about the major programs that we tested. So everything's reported, but there's only certain ones that we are required to test. And we have to get a certain population of coverage. So we looked at the elementary and secondary school emergency relief. And then we looked at the child nutrition cluster, and so there's just testing that has to be done with each of those. Under the part that says threshold for a type A, B program, whether you are low risk auditee, because you as a district follow regulatory basis accounting and not GAAP, you will never be a low risk auditee. It's just not possible. You'd have to have a full accrual audit in order, and keep your books full accrual in order to even be close to being a low risk auditee, which all that really means for us is there's just additional testing that has to be done throughout the process. 2 on that, Roman numeral 2 on the bottom, financial statement findings, there were none. And then if you flip the page, the federal award findings and question costs, on 55, there were no findings with regards to those either. And then on 56, if there was any prior year findings, they would have to be reported on page 56. Is there any questions about anything in this, the bound audit report? Okay, we'll just go real quick over the loose reports that were in the audit. The first report that's in here, this is not something that we used to have in writing, but as the standards change, they put new requirements on us, and now everything has to be communicated in writing. So if there was any problems throughout the audit process, if there was journal entries that we had to complete to get the numbers to where they are in here, those would all be required to be reported to you. And there was a couple journal entries, but nothing real significant. So and if we had difficulties with management, that also would be in this letter, which we didn't have any difficulties with management. So that's pretty much the quick rundown on that one. And then right behind that letter is gonna be the journal entries that we had to do to get to the numbers where they are in this packet here. So you might have seen different numbers when you got reports at June 30th, but it would be those numbers with these journal entries is what's gonna be on statement 1 in this audit report. And then the last report in here is what we like to call the reminder letter. So this is a letter from you guys to us, and it just kind of talks about everything that was discussed throughout the audit process. If there was any legal issues, those would have need to have been reported. Any related party transactions, those things need to be reported. And then you as a district do have an obligation to submit the audit to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse through the data collection process, which Allison and I are working on getting that done. But this is just something that you guys might want to just read over and just make sure that this was everything that we discussed throughout the audit process. So, any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move on to 7.0. We have a maintenance facilities update from Mr. Bortz.
Hello.
Hi.
We currently purchased a program that will allow scheduling preventive maintenance, work history, work orders, and inventory. It's FMX. I was looking through something, we had work due, and it would take forever to load, and it was very frustrating. I was dealing with emails and maintenance requests, and I stumbled across FMX, which is a leading provider of facilities and maintenance management solutions. And we're currently working on doing inventory of HVAC units, our mowers from top to bottom. We're going to have probably Paxton Swanson going through and getting dates, prices. It's
And
going
so
to be.
that way, when someone says, how old is this roof? Well, what do you know? We can push a button and we know because
Yeah.
we've got it documented. Or you talked about those QR codes.
We'll have QR codes on all our units. So if we have a belt that went out or a fan motor, blower motor, we just replaced that 3 weeks ago. Why are we replacing it again? We replaced it a year ago. It'll be a lot easier to go through the history of our equipment.
And to keep track of what we have and what we need and what we've used.
Yeah. We're going to use it as far as anywhere from maintenance to custodial inventory. So, moving on to TK elevator. State now requires, they always have, but they're getting a lot more strict on inspections for our elevators. We have two deficiencies. Both are on TK's side. It's a handrail on the top of the elevator, so if they're working on it, they don't fall off. And then inside the elevator shaft, we have to bring the walls out so somebody can't stand on the inside of them. So moving on to the high school, currently working on getting stuff set up for the summer. The goal is to get the main gym floor at the high school resanded. It's recommended every 15 to 20 years, and it hasn't been done. So,
Didn't we had an issue with the gym floor just, 2 years ago?
We did, but we didn't sand it clear down and start over. They did just those particular areas. That's what we did.
Oh, so they spot fixed it, so now we gotta go back?
They did.
Okay.
is that the waters?
That was when we had the pipe that sewage, the sewer backed up underneath, yeah.
And then the entrance of the cafeteria, there's some concrete that's showing its age. We've got a concrete saw, we're gonna do it all in-house, but that's something I'd like to tackle this summer as well. Stair tread replacement. We've been in contact with the home store, we're just waiting on the stair treads to come in, and then we'll tackle that. Later on, we have pictures that we've tried to do it in-house so long, and I just don't think the quality and safety is there with us doing it ourselves. The soccer field repairs, we had TLC come out and give us a bid to what it would, we had several companies come out and give us a bid to get things corrected on that, so we have the proper drainage, and that should be taking place here in a couple months. They'll be coming out and putting in some drainage. Painting of the exterior doors, we're gonna take on that ourselves. The middle school fire escape project, we've been talking to DCS, getting that all sanded, getting an engineer out here to make sure that that's
Structurally sound.
structurally sound.
And so right now, we don't have any students using that. I mean, we could if we had we obviously would if we had a fire or an
Emergency
emergency.
only.
But otherwise, we've really not had kids on it.
The gym entrance at the middle school as well, those doors, pretty rough shape. We want to get it to where it's looking nice and people know that, oh, the gym's this direction. So I know we get a lot of questions when we're outside, or, hey, where's your gym at? So, Square D project at the middle school. I was on the phone with them today, again, just trying to see, the communication's a struggle with Square D right now, and we're trying to get, Keith George and I are trying to get that communication wrapped up. We have a switch box that needs replaced, and they're getting measurements and having an engineer get that measured for the space that it is in.
And that's already been on a board agenda and approved. He called about 10 till 5 tonight and
What's he
said,
do?
there's no parts. They won't set a date until they get all they have part of the parts, not all the parts. They won't set a date for install until they have all of the parts. And when he spoke to the company today, she wasn't able to give him a date when those parts would be ready. So, still on a
There you
holding
have
pattern.
Yeah.
The seating area at the middle school on the west side, underneath you can see their little landscaping bricks. Want to pull that up this summer, and it's eroding underneath. Should be something ourselves. Roof replacements. So looking into this, we need to replace all roofs before they reach that 25-year mark. And we are approaching that this year with Lincoln. We have 3 different ages on that roof. We have, I don't recall, one that is 24 years and one that is 22 and one that's 21, I believe.
And the reason we have to go to that 25, we have to get it changed before the 25-year mark is EMC, our insurer, will not insure the building if the roof is over 25 years old. So, I know that, like that happened in Independence, where all of their buildings, except for one, were able to be insured by EMC because the roof was too old. So we want to stay ahead of that, if at all possible.
Well, at Lincoln, tile replacement, I know that it's been on the future repairs for quite some time. Like to get in there. We've got pictures of it, and they need replaced. Awnings or drip edge needed above the library entrance outside and the art room. Water's coming into the building. And that's something that, it's not bad, but it's bad enough that it's noticeable on heavy rain.
I interject real quick on the Lincoln. Is that the one with in the restrooms?
The
where
red clay.
Well, but is it the one that has the elevated, were they like temporary elevated for like the urinals and things of that nature? Are we going to do, was it temporary or was that still tile? I can't recollect.
I think that was for the younger kids, so they could reach the,
Right, the youngs, but I think it's temporary.
I guess the question is it more than just needing to put epoxy on the floor? Does that bathroom need to be, not quote, completely remodeled, but at least?
We may have, well, probably what we'll need to do is when we remodel the floors, we'll have to lower the urinals. So there'll be some remodel that
Okay.
probably need
Yeah.
to happen.
make
so
the
that we don't have
urinals
to
to where they're
We don't have
kid-friendly
a
heights.
step to get
Yeah,
up on.
if we're going to do that, we need to do
Might
it
as
all
well
in
do it then,
one.
yep.
Yeah. Garfield, the guttering, the downspouts, they're in really rough shape. And that's something we're going to try to touch on this year as well. Light switches in the gym, those are at the breakers. We use breakers to shut the lights on and off. That's something we've wanted to address. But talking to Barney Pontius, those light switches, or those breakers they will hold up to that. That is, they're meant for that type of use. But it's just not friendly when you're trying to find a light switch in the dark.
If you're not familiar with it, you've got to go up on the
On the
stage
stage.
and around. I mean, those of us that work there a long time know where they are. But otherwise, you're up there looking around.
It's kind of scary in the dark.
It is kind of scary
is.
in the dark.
Sidewalk replacement, we'd like to touch and get those replaced this year as well. Gas lines, we've got Guthridge and the high school done. We'd like to paint those. These gas lines need painted.
And they have to be painted yellow.
There's also pictures in there in the packet. Flag poles, we did the middle school. I didn't realize how much improvement that really does. It's an eyesore, so we'd like to get those things addressed as well. Guthridge, crack seal the asphalt on the playground, maybe make some improvements on the playground asphalt as well. And then Mr. Freeze has also asked us to add some fence to the north side of Guthridge to keep the kids from kicking balls out in the roadway and getting out in the street.
So, and here's a packet of pictures.
I'm a
All
picture
the
guy,
different
I'm a visual
things.
person. So
Oh, yeah, look at that.
the gymnasium, it'd be nice, with different doors, we could also, in time, add the key card system, which would be a lot more friendly for the rec center using our facilities and getting in and out as well. Something that we can touch as well on the second page, the middle school fire panel. The smoke heads are obsolete. Most of the stuff that goes with this system is obsolete anymore. We are getting refurbished stuff online when something goes out. So, some of the tile we'd like to replace and get our colors in there instead of the red and blue. And
And we do have that tile
It looks
purchased.
pink.
We did that right before COVID. We bought all of the yellow and blue tile that we would need to redo that, and then COVID happened, and that tile's been sitting there. So, we've got the tile, we just have to get the install.
And then here's the Lincoln bathrooms we talked about on the next one.
I think those are original.
Say, how old is that floor? That was my next question.
79, the 70s, yes.
That was what we had in one of the kitchens at Garfield years ago that they then tore down and epoxy down. And this is in our high school kitchens as well.
It is.
Which is somewhere on down the road that we need to look at.
And this is the picture of the soccer field. LaForge came out and helped us tremendously. This field is not holding water near like it was, but we have to do our due diligence and make sure that we're adding every year, and it's routine maintenance to the field. We got to keep overseeding and top dressing.
So when you say next couple months for the soccer field, what month is that?
We're looking at March,
Okay.
so they should be out here, and that way they can still seed it. Hopefully get the kids on it this year.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
the gas lines, this is just not painting them. It takes a toll on them.
You're also, you said on there, softball, baseball fields, you're seeding and doing those too?
Yes, we are, for sure. We're starting on the softball field. The baseball field took a little bit of a toll.
Is that Winway, or you're talking about the,
Now, what do we consider the baseball field?
Would be Winway.
Down
What we
Winway.
do.
Winway.
Right, not the
The
college.
tackle football league was down there when we were working on the softball field, so we didn't do our winter maintenance on that as well. It was taking a beating. So, fields need the time to recover. They do. The Lincoln Gym windows up above, the glass that goes around, we'll need to recock and reseal those as they're starting to show some age. And then there's a picture of the stair tread we've tried to do ourselves over the last several years. And then this is the picture of the Lincoln roof, and I was wrong, 2005, 2007, and roughly 2000 are the dates on that roof. They've got a TPO, and then the new addition, and then the old section. That's the next two pictures. And then there was an addition onto the middle school for the dry goods, and when they installed that, they didn't put some flashing in between the building, and we expect to show some water coming through. We did have that replaced. And then last but not least, this is a picture of one of the heat exchangers we've been replacing on D-Wing. So when it's recommended 15 to 20 years to replace them, I strongly suggest that, because these holes and cracks that you see in them, that's how the carbon monoxide gets into your building. And that is something we want to stay away from. We have one unit left on D-Wing that is showing that age, and we just checked it, and it does not have holes in the heat exchanger, but during the improvements and replacements, we did keep the heat exchangers out of some of the ones that we had just replaced, so we're using those up.
Which building did you say that one?
That's at the high school. Sorry.
New addition.
D.
Question?
That's it?
That's a lot of
Sorry.
stuff.
Sorry.
It is a lot
That's a lot of stuff, Eric.
That's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
I like
try to be.
I like the pictures.
Any other questions, Mr. Boards? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ariel.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 8.0, report from the superintendent of schools.
All right, so the first thing is special recognition, because it is Board Member Appreciation Month. I don't know if you knew that, but that's why you all got a special treat and your favorite beverage with a fun little Viking koozie. And I thought they were kind of cute. You brought your own? Now you have a big bottle of Diet Mountain. You're gonna have enough Mountain Dew. I don't think you should drink. Okay, here we go. All right, cheers. So, we've got certificates made for each of you, and I thought I'll just pass these around so that you can have yours, and then I'll just let you know, I'll just say when this person started on the board. Whew. For some of you, that's been a while back. Just saying. Okay, so Leanne, let's see, you came on the board just this last year, in 2024. So there's your certificate, ma'am. Thank you. I know it is a thankless job. It's a job that you don't get paid for, and usually people don't call you with all the good things. But you do know your work is appreciated. So David, according to our record, you started in 2015. 16 on the school board. Look at that. Coming in on the 10-year mark.
Good job, David.
Yeah, so Julie, you started in 2021, right? So this is, you served 1 4-year term, and here you are for second, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good work. Let's see. Oh, no, I don't have these in order. They were in order. Maybe, let's see. Okay, and so Dr. Quirin, do you know what year you started on the board?
No idea.
2009.
Okay.
Wow.
Good work.
Good job, Jeff.
Yeah.
Plenty time.
Okay. The one who has the most seniority, Olivia, she served on the board from 1999 to 2003, and then has been back on the board since 2017.
Wow.
So thank you. So she took a little hiatus, and then
Came back
she was
for more,
willing to
huh?
come back. And so Kayla started in with us in 2024, like Leanne, and Lou has been on the board since 2011.
Wow.
So we have a very experienced board, and I know it is often thankless work, but I do appreciate it. It makes a difference. You make a difference for Parsons kids and for our staff. So coming once a month and then reading all the stuff that you get every week and going to activities and supporting staff and our students, it is appreciated. So thank you. Good work. All right, now the 7th and 8th grade leadership class, I think if you were able to check in your view this last week, you got this little invitation. Our 7th and 8th grade leadership class would like to invite the board to the middle school on either the 28th of January or the 29th from 2:45 to 3:15. They have a little thing that they've made for you. They want to have some refreshments and then just talk about what does leadership on a school board look like. And so if you will let Debbie Schaefer or Olivia Knowlton know if you'll be able to attend, and they understand, that people work and all of those kinds of things. But if you are able to attend, you're more than welcome to. We want to make sure that we don't end up with a quorum, though. So if you'll need to RSVP for that. So let's see, where else are we at? So January 6th, okay, that was that professional development day that we were supposed to have Dr. Watson, and then they had Ice Mageddon clear up north. So we rescheduled Dr. Watson to come in February. We had a late start that morning for teachers and staff, so they got there at 10 o'clock, and then they did the curriculum and the standards alignment in their buildings. So they worked in teams and groups, and then they had some classroom time to get ready for second semester as well. So, and then Dr. Watson will be here February 10th, and then we'll have the big breakfast. So if you want to mark that day on your calendar, you sure can. So it worked out since we didn't have students that day, we didn't have to make another weather call. So coming up January the 20th, we do not have school. The district office is closed. All the offices are closed in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The special board meeting we had talked about doing that on January 28th. Then we had a cancellation of a ball game, so the ball game got moved to that night. So I've heard from most of you, or Amanda has, so if you haven't let her know 28th, 29th, or February 5th or 6th, what your preference would be, please do that so we can get that scheduled as well. Okay? And then February 10th, that is the next professional development day. That's when Dr. Watson will be there, and we will have the breakfast, the district group, his state of the state address, and then we'll again work on curriculum and standards alignment. That's going to be a thing that's going to be common theme throughout, because that's part of our KISA accreditation. That was what our area of focus was going to be, because we need to get all of that in alignment. So that's what I have. Any questions? Okay.
Great, thank you very much. Moving to 9.0, report on the Tri-County Board meeting.
Okay, I had two of them since our last meeting. December 11th, We had a presentation by Angela Booth, who is a Neodesha special education teacher. And she told us about a Circles project, and it's a KU research project, and Neodesha is the first school in Kansas to implement it. And it's to connect students with community members, and so that they can get support in a positive in-school and then post-school outcomes for students with disabilities. So they feel more part of the community, know what's out there for their future. And that was very interesting. The board was also provided information on the local contribution special education state aid, and we'll receive some in January, and every district but one got more money than Tri-County had asked for. That's what it says. Did you, I've got it right here. Parsons, the state aid that you are supposed to receive February 2025 payment of 165, could that be right? $165,392. And they had asked Parsons for an increase of $131,402. So it was a bigger increase. I mean, they're sending more than the increase was this year.
And so a lot of times that's the additional programs that we pay for, the Tri-County Education Center, which is the alternative day school, those are extra spots that we pay on top of that initial, this is your payment. So each of those is additional. So while it looks like, oh, there's money, well, everything else, because then we have to pay for transportation for all of our special ed kids and all of those things. So
It kind of balances.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
it does.
And then in the January 8th meeting, they reminded us of the legislative luncheon scheduled for tomorrow in Topeka. And I believe Julie and I are going with Lori.
Right. So we're
Okay.
going to meet about 6 to 9 hours, 8:30, 8:45.
Okay.
The district office will.
Okay. And then she also, the director shared information on the spring 2025 Tri-County initiatives. And the initiatives came from the TC Leadership Panel, the TC Survey of Engagement and Satisfaction, and the Tri-County 3-year plan. And so she gave us a kind of a breakdown of what positives from each of those groups, what they had accomplished, and what they want to do next. And then they've got, Tri-County's 3-year plan is up, so they've got to write it down now. So and then she mentioned that Job Olympics will be February 28th from 9 to 1 at the Civic Center in Independence this year. So, and I think that was it.
Any other questions, Ms. Hunter? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 10.0, organization of the 25 Board of Education and appointment for certain functions. So this is where we elect the president, vice president, second vice president, and then appoint someone to represent us at Tri-County Special Education Board meetings. And then we have some other assignments later in the agenda with the calendar committee and the negotiations team. And so I've served as president for some time now, and so I'd kind of visited with Lou, suggesting that one or both of us needed to kind of transition out, and then new blood needed to transition in. And so I volunteered to transition out unless someone just decides that I can't transition out, and I will do whatever the board decides, but I've volunteered to transition out. And so if others have an interest in the president position and the vice president position for that matter, those positions are available like they always are. So at this point, I guess just typically what we do is entertain nominations for president first, since it's on the agenda first.
I'd like to nominate Lou Martino
Okay?
from his current position as first vice president to president.
Okay. Mr. Martino, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
What happens if there's another nomination, then we go to a vote?
We'll go to the vote on the first one, and if it doesn't pass, then we will entertain other nominations.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you, Jeff, would you be willing to be president again?
Yes.
I would prefer not to, with Mr. Martino accepting the nomination. He's been in the vice president role for a long time.
A long time.
And so that's my preference.
Okay.
Is there a second for Mr. Martino on the nomination?
I second it.
Okay. All those in favor of Mr. Martino for president, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries then. Item B, election of vice president. This will be first vice president, just to kind of remind you, typically the last, it's been about 4 years now, the president and the vice president, first vice president, that is, have worked hand in hand with setting the board agenda and kind of worked together in tandem with Lori on things. So it's an important role. Any nominees for first vice president?
I nominate Kayla.
I second it.
Is there anyone else interested as well?
Okay. First and seconded to have Kayla as vice president. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carries. Election of second vice president.
I nominate Julie.
Any seconds on that?
I second it.
Okay. First and seconded to nominate Julie as second vice president. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that kind of takes care of those positions. Now the Tri-County Special Education Board representative. Anybody want to nominate someone for that, or any volunteers? Sure do like the work we've had this last year.
I know, Leanne.
I will do it again if.
Thanks, Leanne. I nominate Leanne.
I second it.
And moved and seconded to nominate Leanne, and then the rest of us are always alternates, so that if she can't make it, then they just kind of pick up the phone and call around.
Leanne, I'm happy to be your alternate again for you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 10.1, action to accept donations to schools.
All right, that's on page 33 of your packet. So if you'll flip back there were no donations in the month of November to the district office. At Lincoln, donating a percentage of sales was Domino's, totaling $137.34. Walmart made a donation of school supplies, $800. The Nazarene Church donated school supplies, student supplies, valued at $600 for a total of $1,537.34 at Lincoln. There were none at Garfield. At Guthridge, Casey's made an unrestricted donation of $250. That was the total of donations for the month there. There were none at the middle school as well. At the high school, the Hollins Group made a donation to the Viking Farms, $17.20. Great Southern Bank made a donation for the Attendance Incentive Program, $500. Ohio Pile Prince made a donation of $11.61 for the Positive Reinforcement Program. There were 2 donations to the FCCLA program, one from the DCCCA Incorporated, $250, and Nicole Hickman made a donation to the FCCLA program, $40. There were anonymous donations to the football program totaling $2,009 for a total of $2,827.81. So that took total district donations to $4,615.15 for the month of November. So I recommend that you approve those generous donations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept those donations to schools. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 10.2, first reading of 25-26 high school course description handbook.
Okay, something that was brought up today, this isn't anything that we're going to vote on, the board's going to vote on today, they're going to vote on it next month. There was the question about we had moved to 21 credits in comparison, so, because that is the state requirement to graduate, and so in looking at that, I'm going to send you some information in the next month prior to the meeting, what other districts are doing in regard to the number of credits that they require, some rationale for why we went to 21 a few years back. So that'll be something to discuss. So I just want to make you aware you'll be getting
Isn't the
that.
state board meeting tomorrow on high school graduation, and they want to remove FAFSA as one of the requirements?
There is a state board of education meeting tomorrow. They do, yeah, because that had been put as part of the accreditation process, was that you had to do the FAFSA. And now they're saying, now they're backtracking and.
That's what I
right.
thought.
That is something that's, it'll be interesting to see how that transpires.
What is fast?
That is what the parents and the students fill out. It's the financial aid that you do that gets you financial aid for
Federal aid.
college.
Are you going to figure that out pretty
You
quick?
are. You're gonna go to the
Still-
parent meeting and you're gonna
still
think,
not
why
there yet.
is this so
No.
hard?
It's so
And
fun.
It really
Your
shouldn't.
login never works.
Last year there was a real struggle nationwide with it. It just
Well,
didn't work.
I will tell you, compared to when my first group went through, it is a simple process.
Yeah.
It took me hours upon hours upon hours the first time. This time,
It
is
did bring
not.
everything but a blood sample,
Yeah,
it
it
felt
does
like,
not
when
take
John did it
near
back
as
in
long
2014. It was like, God.
As long as you allow them to
Get in all
log
your
into the
stuff.
IRS system for your income information, it doesn't take near as long. If you don't, then it's a little
Yeah.
more problematic. So, anyways.
It's just-
Okay, so 10.3, action to appoint a board member to the calendar committee. Do you have
And we
anybody?
and we forgot that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I
We'll
just
get
know.
back to that.
Okay.
10.3, action to appoint a board member to the calendar committee. Anybody have an interest in the calendar committee?
The calendar's really pretty well set in regard to the number of hours that are required. The state has also asked that everyone do their spring breaks at the same time, universities and schools. So a lot of that is set. I think last time we met, I don't even know I know we didn't meet 3 times. I'm not sure we even had to meet twice, did we? Maybe.
I don't think we never, I'll volunteer. I love that committee because we never meet.
Yeah.
Definition of good
We only have to. We got that pretty well down to a science.
All right, well, do you want to do that again, Olivia, then?
Of course.
Okay.
Please, Stephanie.
That was hilarious.
Okay, do we have a motion to
I have
nominate
a
Olivia?
motion to nominate Olivia.
Well, I'll
Second.
that.
Okay. First and seconded to have Olivia as our calendar committee representative. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, then we need a couple board members to serve on the negotiations team.
So we'll
Do it.
we'll share letters, like P&EA will send a letter at the end of March, and the board, we will work in February and March on what it is you'd like to propose that you would offer them as well. So those letters have to be exchanged by I think, March the 31st, or the Friday prior to that. So this year it'll look a little different with budgets. So, you ready?
Okay. All right, so we need a couple people for that. Any nominees?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I will too if nobody else wants to.
Kayla, you were on it last year with Lou.
But if you want it, it's yours.
Nope. I was just trying to clarify my mind. It'd be good to have somebody that's been through that process before.
Oh, I've been on both sides of the table now.
Yeah.
And last year, the district did have KASB come, and so that may be something that we consider again this next year as well.
Okay. I would nominate Julie and Kayla for the negotiations.
I second it.
Okay, first and seconded to nominate Julie and Kayla for that negotiations team as our representatives on that team. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We do have, we'll get back to that when we get down here before executive session. So we do have action 10.6 on the following job description. So we've got a host of these. If you want to discuss what you want to discuss.
Right, so the first thing we've got are the KASB policy updates. So those have been included since December the 9th. And then again on December the 3rd, I sent out just a little descriptor for each. Really, they do that, KASB does. If you look at the first few pages, they're going to tell you what's new, what to adopt and those kinds of things. So there were 11 existing policy revisions. There were 2 new policies altogether, brand new. One of those was about fundraising, and one was about having a stock supply of emergency medication in the nurse's office. And that the emergency medication would be like EpiPens, which We already train everyone on how to administer an EpiPen. The other would be albuterol, and we would just add that training as well and have that medicine available in case of an emergency. So that was one of the new policies. The other is a fundraising proposal. And so what it really does is it provides written guidance for current practice, plus it adds some safeguards. Because now sometimes there'll be some fundraising and someone will say, oh, I saw that they're raising money for this. And Jeff and I are like, okay, or asking for donations or those kinds of things. So while it said this was, because a lot of districts are asking, because now with so much stuff on social media, people can ask for things, and there's Amazon wish lists, and there's Google lists, and there's all these lists that you can have. It doesn't mean, I visited with Laura extensively about this, it does not mean, her interpretation in KSB's when I talked to Luke again, it doesn't mean that they can't have an Amazon wish list or a donation list or something like that, but it has to be, we have to make sure that staff know if they ask for things, that it all has to be, that it belongs to the school. It isn't things that they can take with them. It doesn't become their property. So we have to have written, there has to be some prior approval of those things. And we would have to review that with staff, and we're going to have to create some kind of form. And you'll notice they gave us a bunch of ideas, but KSB didn't have a form. Even though the majority of their packet was forms for something else. So I think there might be I think they're trying to figure it out as well, because where
does the money go initially?
Well, and see, this will line it out so it specifically tells you where it goes. Where it goes now is into the accounts, like at the high school, if the basketball team raises it, and that is the way we do it. Procedurally, that is how we do it now. This way, it's just in writing. You're not going to Venmo a staff member.
Okay.
You're not going to, this is the way that money has to be collected and has to be accounted for. And procedurally, we're doing those things. The CPA was here and they've looked through all of those things. But this way, it's in writing, everyone knows, and we've shared it from the beginning. These are the expectations, this is how you do it. We'll have to develop the forms, say this,
Okay.
So those were the two new policies.
Excluding PTO and booster program.
Yeah, that does not include those kinds of, it doesn't.
Project Home?
They would be separate, because that's not run by the school. So there were two policies that they recommended deleting, and then there were all those forms, which really isn't anything you have to approve, it's just something that we would have, and that way we could use those that were consistent. So, are there any questions?
I make a motion to approve the KSB policy updates.
I second it.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those CASB policy updates. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now I guess we'll get on to 10.6. I
Right.
jumped the gun to the
That's all
job
right.
descriptions.
Got all excited. So these are the job descriptions, and so they're included for all of those different positions. And so what I did was I sat down with Ben and with Eric, both who are the directors of both technology and maintenance, and talked about, where do you think this goes? Do you think this works? So that we could get these updated and cleaned up and applicable to us. And so these are the ones that they felt like were applicable to what we have. And then this way, it also has, make sure it has all of the legal things a job description needs that KASB requires. So,
Any questions on those? Okay. Action on those if the board so chooses.
Make a motion to approve those job descriptions.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the job descriptions as listed in our packet. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Now we'll go back to, we missed one of the items on the agenda. It was 10.0A, which was discussion and action on a possible makeup day for inclement weather, so.
okay, so this last Friday, we didn't have school because on Thursday night, the weather looked like it wasn't going to be so hot. And we did get quite a bit of snow. So The requirement for the state, just so that you are all aware, is 1,116 hours required by the state for students in K through 11. Seniors require 1,086 hours. Now it's just a matter of whether or not we make up that day, make up those hours. If we don't make up January, there are days built into the school calendar we could add on if we were required to make up that day. Without making up that day, the K through 11 group would still have 1,167.17 hours, and we would still have 1,092.33 hours for seniors. So they would still have plenty of hours to meet the requirement by the state without having to make those days up. However, there are days built into the calendar that we could use. And we never know how February is going to be.
Yeah, I
or
think
March.
traditionally we've only brought it up if we've missed the multiple days.
Usually we would forgive one.
I agree with that.
So I would make a motion just to forego any possible makeup day at this point.
I second.
And my
Okay.
kids would shoot me.
Moved and seconded to forget about the missed day from a makeup perspective. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. So now we have a series of executive sessions. Our first one is on personnel matters, and we're going to need a pretty lengthy one tonight on that. So I need a motion so we'll have kind of two parts to this personnel. We'll have one part with superintendent and assistant superintendent with us, and then we'll dismiss them to talk about a matter without them in the room. So we'll need 30 minutes for that to start off with. So probably around a 5-minute bathroom break before we start that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Motion.
Yeah. I move we go into 7:07, 5-minute bathroom break, so 7:12 for 30 minutes. And then you want to say that big, long thing, Jeff?
I can. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We enter executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA. We'll do that at 7:12 after a 5-minute recess for bathroom. We'll return back here at 7:42. We'll start off with superintendent and assistant superintendent in the room, and then they will be dismissed at some point in time, and the board minutes will reflect that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Leanne.
Okay, we're back in open session, and we need to extend this executive session, and so we need another 10 minutes for, this is item 10.7, for personnel matters for non-elected personnel. So I need a motion to enter at 7:44, come out at 7:54, and it will just be the board, no superintendent or assistant superintendent. So need that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to enter executive session for the non-elected personnel exception again at 7:44, returning at 7:54. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are recessed again till 7:54.
Never
Go
was.
sit in the hall.
Oh, you're on.
Back in open session then, and we don't have anything for 10.8, which is the employer-employee negotiation, but we do have some minimal items for 10.9. How much time would you need?
Less than 10 minutes.
Okay, let's go ahead and do 7 minutes then for 10.9, which is the executive session for confidential student information. So I need a motion in that regard.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and second to enter executive session for 7 minutes. That'll be at 7:57, back here at 8:04. We will have superintendent and assistant superintendent with us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, we're back in regular session. Moving to 10.10, action on personnel.
All right, so we have a couple personnel items on the agenda tonight. First is termination from employment, Lorraine Hickerson, Garfield custodian, effective January the 3rd, 2025.
A motion for that termination.
So moved.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Transfer of employment, Karen Myers, part-time custodian at the middle school to full-time custodian at Garfield, effective January the 6th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for that transfer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, recommendation for employment, Tanner Smith, transportation driver, effective January the 7th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for that recommendation for employment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have one resignation from employment, Nicole Hickman, high school secretary, effective January the 24th, 2025. And Nicole Hickman is the high school assistant junior class sponsor, effective January the 24th, 2025. So I recommend you approve that resignation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve that resignation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have one resignation for retirement, Robbie Martin, high school and Garfield librarian, effective the end of the 24-25 school year. So when Robbie turned in her letter this afternoon, she said she'd been in the district as a student or an employee for 50 years. And so we appreciate the work that she's done, but I recommend that you approve that resignation for retirement.
So moved with a grateful attitude.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve that resignation for retirement of Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Nothing further, we all adjourn this evening. Transfer of power at the next